Imagine walking out of your house expecting a normal day. A newspaper lies on your doorstep, bearing the devastating news that a young girl's body has been found nearby. But as you read on, your world comes crashing down. The victim is your own daughter, who vanished just days ago. This is the heart-wrenching story of Sharron Prior, a 16-year-old girl whose tragic fate was hidden. When the body is examined, the police are left in shock. The body was brutally tortured and left in a terrible state. The victim had been severely beaten, found undressed below the waist with her mouth taped shut and chewed tape tangled in her hair. Her jaw was shattered, and her body displayed the unmistakable marks of unimaginable suffering. For half a century, the case went cold, leaving behind only unanswered questions and a family's unrelenting quest for justice. But thanks to advances in technology, the truth finally began to unravel. Who was behind this heinous crime, and what drove them to commit such evil? Join us as we delve into the shocking details of this case. Sharron Prior was born in the winter of 1959 in the picturesque city of Montreal. Her mother, originally from Great Britain, had immigrated to Canada with her family at a young age and spent her life there. It was in Canada that she met her future husband George, who served in the Canadian Army. The young couple fell in love at first sight and soon married. Their first child, Sharon, was born shortly after. Just days before Sharon's second birthday, her mother gave birth to twins, Doreen and Maureen, in 1962. In the same year, George was transferred to Manitoba for military service, and the family moved to a well-established, though older, neighborhood in the city that was considered safe and peaceful. Not long after the move, they welcomed another child, a son named George Jr. However, family tensions soon escalated, and by 1965, George and his wife decided to divorce. George continued his military service while his ex-wife and the 4 children relocated to a Langley apartment provided through a military assistance program. Despite its peaceful appearance, danger was unknowingly present. From a young age, Sharon was known for her kindness, compassion, and willingness to help. She often rescued stray animals, especially those injured or ill, nursing them back to health before finding them new homes. Her love for animals fueled her dream of becoming a veterinarian. Sharon was also passionate about sports and creativity, participating in hockey, art classes, and needlework. Her mother was immensely proud of her, seeing her as independent, responsible, and mature beyond her years. Sharon steered clear of bad company and trouble, promising a future filled with bright opportunities and achievements. In 1975, the Prior family's life was routine. 16-year-old Sharon, like many teens, dealt with typical issues, from a love of trendy music and clothes. Sharon had also begun dating John, a boy who had adored her since 4th grade. The couple's genuine affection earned her parents' support. On March 29, 1975, the day began like any other. Sharon asked her mother for permission to go to Marina Pizzeria, a popular local hangout for teenagers not far from their home. Having granted similar requests before, her mother agreed, and Sharon went to get ready. By 6 o'clock, a neighborhood girl visited the Prior house, chatting with Sharon while she prepared to go out. At 6:30, the girls parted ways, with Sharon heading to the pizzeria alone. A group of teenagers was already at Marina waiting for Sharon, but she did not arrive. They assumed she was taking a stroll with her boyfriend, John, and continued with their evening. John and a few friends, who had been watching a hockey match, also went to the pizzeria but didn't find her there. John was puzzled as he hadn't seen Sharon since school and expected to find her at Marina. Her absence was unusual, and concern grew among her friends, as Sharon was known for her punctuality and responsibility. Back at home, Sharon's mother had put the younger children to bed and was watching TV. As the evening wore on and Sharon still hadn't returned, she started to worry. Sharon's mother waited anxiously in the living room, hoping to see her daughter return. But as the hours passed, Sharon was still missing. By midnight, her worry turned into fear. She felt uncomfortable calling Sharon's friends so late, so she decided to wait until morning, periodically checking out the window. At dawn, her anxiety intensified. She called Sharon's friends and boyfriend John, but no one had any information about her whereabouts. Her worst fears were confirmed when she learned that Sharon had never made it to the pizzeria. The neighbor who had left with Sharon confirmed she had parted ways with her on the street and hadn't seen her since. Further distress came from Sharon's friend Mary, who informed her mother of a disturbing incident near the pizzeria. A 23-year-old woman named Cheryl Roy had been attacked by a man with a knife around 7 o'clock. Fortunately, passers-by scared off the attacker, who fled in the direction Sharon would have been coming from. Witnesses described the attacker as a tall, dark-haired man with blue eyes and a mustache. Sharon's mother was gripped by panic. The location and timing of the attack perfectly matched the route Sharon typically took. The woman immediately went to the police, but they were cautious, launching a large-scale search instead of jumping to conclusions. Hundreds of concerned citizens joined, armed with photos of 16-year-old Sharon. Her mother even appeared on local TV, pleading for help. Sadly, the search brought no results. Sharon had no reason to run away, no conflicts at home or school, and her relationship with John was loving and stable. With no suspects or leads and efforts to track down a knife-wielding man seen nearby proving fruitless, the investigation stalled, leaving Sharon's mother clinging to hope. On the morning of April 1st, Sharon's mother noticed something unusual. A young man left Sharon's friend's house, crossed the street, and took a newspaper from their doorstep. Alarmed, she called out to him, but he hurried away. She ran after him, snatching the newspaper from his hands. On the front page was a photo of a girl's body found nearby. Stunned, she couldn't believe the police hadn't informed her first, trying to convince herself it wasn't Sharon. Finally, she called the police to confirm her fears. The detectives, unsure of the victim's identity, asked her to come in for identification. Sharon's mother couldn't bring herself to go for the identification, so she asked her ex-husband to go in her place. As the girl in the photo bore a strong resemblance to Sharon, and her clothing matched the description her mother had given to the police, Sharon's father immediately recognized her, confirming the worst. Her body was found by a local resident, Jack, who had seen reports of her disappearance in the news. He quickly reported the discovery and mentioned that someone had trespassed on his property. Although he always kept his doors locked, he noticed the lock was broken, with no signs of a break-in, as if the intruder had used a key. When Jack saw the body, he was horrified to find a woman's body, naked from the waist down. Strangely, nothing was missing from his house, and he couldn't fathom why someone had dumped the corpse on his property. The police arrived quickly and began investigating the brutal murder. The victim's body showed signs of severe beatings, bruises, and hemorrhages. She was wearing only a suede jacket and a blue sweater, with her jeans found a few meters away and her underwear hanging in a nearby tree. Her mouth was taped shut with heavily chewed tape tangled in her hair, which she had tried to pull off with her last strength. The snow showed signs that Sharon had attempted to get up, suggesting the killer left her to die while she was still alive. Law enforcement officers also found crucial evidence at the crime scene. About 50 feet from the body, tire tracks were visible on the ground, with a faint trail of blood droplets leading to the victim. Since there were no signs of dragging, detectives suspected multiple people might have been involved. Sharon's socks and shoes were clean, indicating she hadn't crawled on her own. She was likely carried from a vehicle and left to die in the cold. Nearby, investigators found a man's shirt, which they believed had been used to bind Sharon's wrists. Additionally, a clear shoe print was discovered near the gatepost, along with a receipt for a jacket Sharon never had a chance to collect. Forensic examination revealed that Sharon had died just hours before her body was found, enduring horrific abuse and rape before her death. The brutal murder of Sharron Prior left an indelible mark on the small town. The forensic evidence painted a gruesome picture, characteristic marks of strangulation, crushed ribs, and a severe head injury that caused internal bleeding. The sheer brutality of the crime was evident in the numerous stab wounds, broken jaw, smashed nose, and torn cheek. As the community gathered at the local Presbyterian church to bid farewell to the young victim, her mother's grief was palpable. she couldn't help but think of one thing: justice for her daughter's senseless murder. The crowd of 100 townspeople shared her sentiment, united in their quest for answers and closure. 3 blocks from Sharon's murder, Canada had already experienced a similar crime involving a minor. On July 9, 1974, Norma O'Brien, a 12-year-old girl, was murdered near the site of Sharon's murder. Her half-naked body was found in a field near the pool. The similarities between the murders of Norma and Sharon were striking. Both girls were partially stripped, brutally beaten, and raped. Investigators suspected a serial killer, but had no leads. On June 23, 1975, a 14-year-old girl, Debbie Fisher, was found dead in the woods, killed by a blow to the head. Unlike the earlier victims, Debbie Fisher was not sexually assaulted. She died from a blow to the head with a rock. A 17-year-old boy was soon arrested for Debbie Fisher's murder and confessed to the crime. Due to his status as a minor, his identity was kept confidential. He also admitted to killing Norma O'Brien a year earlier, but denied involvement in Sharron Prior's death. He was only convicted for the murders of Debbie and Norma, and his punishment was relatively light due to his age. And the shocking truth is, after 13 months, investigators still had no prime suspect to formally charge. Law enforcement questioned 38 people who had been in contact with Sharon that evening, detaining 6 suspects who matched the description. Frank Daly, the pizzeria manager Sharon was heading to, was a key suspect, but was released due to insufficient evidence. The investigation hit a standstill, with no new leads or credible information emerging. The devastated mother, unable to accept the loss, focused on the local residents, hoping someone might recall a suspicious individual. Detectives believed the killer was a young man, possibly still living with his parents, with mental issues or violent tendencies. They suspected this might not be his first crime, and feared it wouldn't be his last. Investigators also considered that the knife-wielding attacker who assaulted Cheryl on the same day might be linked to Sharon's murder. The police began investigating the knife-wielding attacker. Although a detailed portrait sketch was created from witness descriptions, the man remained elusive despite all efforts. The horrifying truth was that they were dealing with a serial killer who remained elusive. With a lack of modern equipment such as DNA analysis and surveillance cameras, the police struggled to keep up. Meanwhile, similar attacks on young girls were occurring in neighboring regions. In 1978, 17-year-old Lisa Belay was found murdered in Montreal, and 6 years later, 12-year-old Tammy Lackey fell victim to the same sadistic killer. The perpetrators of Sharon's murder were never identified, and the sheer number of similar cases left the police mired in speculation about potential connections. In 2000, Sharon's mother, driven by hope and advances in science, requested a re-examination of the case. Unfortunately, she learned that most of the physical evidence had vanished by 1995, leaving only Sharon's clothing and some items from a suspect. Despite this, DNA from the suspect's clothing was isolated and preserved. Although it didn't match any profiles in the database, it became crucial for future comparisons. Forensic experts re-examined the evidence, including the shirt found at the scene, hoping it might finally lead to a breakthrough. In June 2004, police were tipped off about a garage where the killer might have held Sharon captive. Despite a thorough search, no physical evidence linking the garage to the crime was found. 3 DNA samples were collected, but none matched Sharon's DNA or the biological traces on her clothing. Consequently, this lead was considered unpromising. In 2012, a $10,000 reward was offered for information on the killer, but despite renewed efforts, the investigation made no significant progress. Disappointed with the police, Sharon's family vowed to seek justice. In 2019, Sharon's mother joined other grieving families on a TV show to accuse law enforcement of incompetence, though police declined to participate. A groundbreaking breakthrough in the decades-old case finally emerged in June 2022, thanks to cutting-edge genetic genealogy. Experts matched a DNA profile from the database to the sample on the suspect's shirt from Sharon's murder scene, leading them to Franklin Romin, who died mysteriously in 1982. After exhuming his remains, the connection was confirmed on May 23, 2023. Romin's appearance and criminal history including assault and rape convictions, aligned with witness descriptions and evidence. His car matched tire tracks near Sharon's body, and he lived near the abduction site. All these facts finally connected the dots in this chilling case. Although the perpetrator could not be prosecuted, the investigators were able to officially close the case and inform the victims' families of the identity of the murderer. The 16-year-old schoolgirl's murder was resolved through advanced DNA techniques. Justice finally came for Sharon, 48 years later. Franklin Roman's dark past caught up with him, bringing closure to her family. But there are still many more Sharons waiting for justice. Let's keep shining a light on their stories and fighting for truth. If you found this true crime story interesting, please like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth investigations. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and join us next time for more stories.